So what do we have now? After farming and moving to a new area up in Salmon, we're renting a little house in town and looking for land. But we have some major human resources to our advantage. Jeremy and I are partners in crime, I like to say. We have a shared vision. We have different complementary skill sets that we bring to the table, but they bring us to the same goal. He's great at the detail stuff, record keeping, math. He's great at math and numbers. He measures twice, cuts once, and I'm more, the marketing and connecting with our customers, and I handle all the taxes and all that stuff. But together, we really bring our farm goals forward, and without that, I think if there's two people and they didn't have a shared vision, it would make it really difficult. And so we're able to communicate very well. I finally have some irrigation knowledge. When I first started, I had no idea about pressure and water and gallons per minute and drip lines and hand lines and pumps, and that picture in the bottom there pretty much sums up my daily aggravation with this irrigation system on the farm that John had kind of piecemealed together since 1949. But now I feel like I'm very confident with all sorts of varieties of irrigation. And I would say that if you don't like keeping records, get over it, because keeping records on the farm is so important. Not only just to help you remember what happens season to season, but if you do decide to get a farm loan or do any sort of program with the NRCS or anything like that, they'll want to see farm records. And we fortunately have 5 years of really good data, which has helped us in some of the projects that we've wanted to move forward over the years. Let's see, I know we can bring to the table all the seed starting and seed saving and production cycle knowledge that we have. We have 5 years of growing experience, and I think that's really valuable to include in your resources list. I know farm taxes are kind of annoying and crazy to go through, and I do work with an accountant, but I also know a lot of people, well, not a lot, but several farmers over the years that aren't diligent, and I think it's kind of doing a disservice to themselves and community, because I think we have a lot to add to our local economies. I do have some, or Jeremy and I both have some small engine repair knowledge now, and it's really important. If you don't have that sort of knowledge to fix things and fix things cheaply, then make sure you meet some neighbors or some friends nearby that you can barter and trade with, because tractors break down, things break, and it can be really expensive to always have to pay somebody to fix it. I wrote down that we're healthy and hardworking, knock on wood, for right now. We're both in our 30s, and we love what we do, and we want to continue doing it. So we take very good care of ourselves, and we practice safety first. I'm Safety Sally when it comes to anything mechanical, because we don't have health insurance. We can't afford it, and I think that's something we have to keep in mind as small farmers in this day and age. Next. Oh, yes, our volunteers. We have used volunteers over the last few years, and I'm glad Melissa spent a little time talking about how wonderful volunteers and apprentices can be, but also that it's not free labor. Fortunately, we've been blessed with some just fabulous college-age volunteers on the farm who just want to learn about what we're doing. And we lucked out, because I've heard some horror stories, and also it takes a lot of time to train people, and you also have to deal with their mistakes. One of the my funnest stories was we sent the volunteers into the greenhouse to harvest basil, and like pounds and pounds of basil. And the next week I was clipping basil, and so I noticed that there was some really big pigweed weeds that had been carefully harvested and plucked just like basil. And so we kind of have to learn that if we have volunteers, there's going to be mistakes. And, you know, you have to weigh out, well, you know, is pigweed in the pesto okay, or is it, you know, something that we're not looking for, because you can't always control the quality when we're working with volunteers. But fortunately, we've had some really great ones on the farm. You can, next slide. And there are some crops that, you know, I just wouldn't want to do alone. Beans are one of them. Picking beans a few times a week is really painstaking and backbreaking, and without my volunteers, I definitely just wouldn't even want to grow beans because it's just too much of a pain in the butt to harvest them. Next. Some of the physical resources we have now, you know, we have everything we need to effectively farm, I would say 1 to 3 acres, maybe up to 5, except the land, of course. We don't have land yet. But we have everything that goes along with it. We have miles of irrigation, hundreds and probably thousands of different irrigation components. We have hand tools and shovels and rubber bands and a big steel 3-basin sink and coolers up the yin-yin. We have a greenhouse and hoop houses. We even dug up a bunch of our perennials and stored them at a friend's garden because we didn't want to lose all those beautiful perennials that we had grown. We have Fergie, our tractor, a couple implements that go along with it, and 2 tillers. And we have nowhere to put all of this crap. So when Melissa was talking about the barns and the outbuildings, that is very, very much top on my list of things to bring, or hopefully be on the next farm. The next few slides are just pictures of our operations, so you can scroll through this. And but we do have some wonderful season extension tools that I would hate to lose over the next couple slides. I think shows them. Great. One thing about coolers, you know, when you're harvesting,
Jessica,
several.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm getting a lot of feedback off of your voice. And
Okay.
I'm not sure why that's happening, but it's just started, so it's starting to create an echo. And I'm not sure if anybody else is hearing that as well, but we apologize. That must be something having to do with the internet connection right now.
Okay. Let's see. I'll see if I can turn to volume down a little bit. Maybe that may make a difference. Let's see. Natural resources.
Oh, this is Melissa. I've been hearing it too.
Okay. Sorry, folks. We will try to get that a little bit lower. I'll try to talk softer, I suppose. Maybe that'll help. Up in Salmon is a little bit different growing climate than down in Pocatello. But there are certain things that we're looking for in terms of a climate zone. And we've talked with a bunch of people up here, and so they can grow sweet corn here and they can grow melons. And those are our 2 sort of crops that gauge where we want to grow. And Jeremy and I talked a lot about it. The winters are a lot colder here than they were in Pocatello. But as long as we can grow sweet corn and melons, with a little help, you know, with some season extension, I'm sure, for the melons. But that's why we decided to be able to move up to salmon. Not to mention that there's clean air and clean water. I'm not sure if the feedback is fixed or not, but I'll just keep on trucking here. The soil types up in salmon are really heavy in clay, but there are some areas of the valley that are better than the others. And so when we're looking at different spots to grow, we're going to spend a lot of time looking at our soils, because the last thing we want to do is purchase something that, you know, is going to take 10 or 15 years to build up over time. And it's something we want to consider. It's not everything, but it certainly helps to have some good soil to begin with. And I put trees on the list because I can't tell you how valuable shade is in the heat of the summer when you're working all day and you just need a spot of shade to sit and rest or keep your crops cool in coolers under burlap. So shade is important. To us anyway. And you can continue on through this slide. A little bit of a delay. I put this slide in here simply because it illustrates some of our green manure practices. We're constantly harvesting things and then planting green manure and cover crops and tilling things in, and I like this photo because you can see where we have seeded some green manure in those rows, and then of course over the course of the whole summer we left our big sunflower to grow because I didn't have the heart to ever weed it. And you know, part of growing in an area is just getting to know the soils and taking the time to use green manures, which we'll talk in depth about over the next few weeks. Next. And again, Cinda, you can kind of scroll through the photos, but a big part of what we did on the farm was just planting with diversity and knowing our own limitations and how much we wanted to weed, how big our walking paths were, and how much time we wanted to spend with different crops. Some of the market and community resources that exist in salmon, I was really pleasantly surprised. It's a really small town. It's only about 3,000 people, but they do have an organization called Salmon Valley Stewardship, and they also have a land trust here in town. And both of those organizations support the local foods group that exists here that does an annual harvest dinner. They do have a farmer's market and a natural food store. And so all those things combined really helped paint a very good picture for us in deciding to move up here, because we knew that we weren't going to be alone in the effort to produce healthy food in this region. It's a very isolated community. It's on, you know, it's 2.5 hours to Missoula, 2.5 hours to Idaho Falls, and an hour upriver to Chalice, which is even smaller of a community. So it can be both good and bad, and you know, bad for its isolation, but also very good because people want access to healthy, affordable food. There's an NRCS agent in town and an extension educator in town. But the best thing is that there's lots of other producers and a fantastic array of enthusiastic eaters who want us to come to town, who wanted us to come there and grow. So we have this really great network of people already built up, and you know, we just moved there 2 weeks ago.